everyone. My name is Daniela Claypool, and I just want to thank you all for coming here today and listening to me talk about the Salem witch trials. First of all, I'd like for you to each think about what the Salem witch trials mean to you. What comes to mind? When I think of the Salem witch trials, I think of magic, and mystery, and witches. But is that all that it was? Just a really great witch story? How did it begin? What happened during the witch trials? And when did it all end? So today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about all of those things. And maybe it's just a witch story, maybe it's not. We're going to go all the way back to the 1300s in Europe. And from the 1300s through the 1600s, the probability of women dying during childbirth was great, just as well as infant death. From the ages of 1 through 5, children would die unexpectedly. And just like women dying during childbirth, they were considered unexplained deaths. An unexplained death to Christians meant that the devil was involved. It was the work of the devil. And according to the SmithsonianMagazine.com, the devil would grant witches powers to harm other people. This started the witch hunts in Europe. And these were known as the witch craze. By the end of the witch craze, which was at the end of the 1600s, it came over to the American colonies. We had many things going on during that time, but one major event was the King William's War. That was from 1689 to 1697. The King William's War forced families and people out of their own homes, and they became refugees, and they had to flee and find other places to live, anywhere from New York to Nova Scotia and even Quebec, and they fled all throughout the Northeast. A lot of those refugees moved to Salem Village. Salem Village was a Puritan village, and so when the newcomers came, it created a conflict. It created lots of conflicts. And the Puritans thought all this conflict was due to the devil's work. One of the newcomers became reverend of their church. His name was Reverend Samuel Parris. And according to the historyofmassachusetts.org, in January 1692, his daughter and his niece became very ill. They started convulsing and having fits. They would scream and they would throw things for no reason. So of course he took them to the village doctor. The village doctor could not find anything medically wrong with them, so he diagnosed them with bewitchment. Reverend Parris and the village doctor,
Daddy, I didn't know you.
They egged the girls on. They wanted them to tell who did this. They wanted them to name them. Who did this to you? Who were the witches? The girls ended up naming 3 women. And according to Salem Witch Museum, 3 women were Tituba, Sarah Good, and Sarah Osborne. Tituba was actually a slave of Reverend Parris. The women were examined, and during these examinations, all of the accused were examined, and during these examinations, they were looking for marks of the devil, marks that signified and confirmed that they were witches, which could have been moles or any discolorations at all. Tituba, during her examination, confessed that Satan had come to her as well as Sarah Good and Sarah Osborne. And he wanted them to do his bidding as witches. And the witch trials began. The Salem witch trials only lasted 1 year, from 1692 to 1693. More than 200 men and women were accused and imprisoned, and only 20 were hanged. But during that time, there was fear and scapegoating and just ignorance. And so by the end of 1694, Governor William Phipps, who was a governor of one of the colonies, he decided that it was time to end these witch trials. Another motivation for him was the fact that his own wife was one of the accused. By 1693, the witch trials did end, but not before 8 more were hanged. We know, modern medicine now tells us that, again, so many things were going on. There was a smallpox outbreak, about why these illnesses started. But there was also, the original girls could have had a reaction to a fungus, a bacteria that lived, that could be found in rye, wheat, and other cereal grasses, which was actually the staple in the Puritan villages. And because they did not know, they assumed it was witches, witchcraft. And then after the trials ended, there was a confession of error that was made, and that was given to the residents of Salem village. But it wasn't until 300 years later that there was an apology made by the state of Massachusetts for all of the wrongdoings. So when we think about the witch trials, it was more than just a really good witch ghost spooky story. There was fear and ignorance that played into the fact that this even occurred. Not having the technology and the medical training to actually diagnose what is truly going on. Now we are able to we are now able to come to logical conclusions and explanations to keep that hysteria at bay. The Puritans fled Europe to escape religious persecution, only to persecute others when they came here. Thank you all very much for coming by and listening. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them. Thank you very much.